Hello, YouTube. Hello, Facebook. Okay. Just waiting for people to turn up here. Very slow. What time is it? 1:30 on Boxing Day. I don't know if anyone's going to turn up. So if no one turns up here on, oh, there's someone on YouTube. I have someone on turning up now. Okay. I didn't know if anyone was going to turn up today. It's Boxing Day. I'm here. Wasn't here yesterday, but I'm here. So just waiting for people to turn up and then we'll get going. Okay. Hope your Christmas was good. Mine was really good, but I'm a little bit disappointed in my granddaughter. She was due a couple days ago. She's overdue now, so she's in trouble. So yeah, hopefully we'll have a 2023 baby, but you never know with first babies, right? So yeah, we're just kind of all on edge waiting for her to arrive. Anyway, so let's get going with your parenting questions. As usual, I'll do my best to answer them to the best of my ability. And this is a really good place to be on Facebook and Facebook and YouTube, because they're not super busy lives. So Instagram and TikTok are pretty crazy. So I should get to all your questions on here, which is great. And plus it's Boxing Day. I don't know how many people are going to turn up. Although in Australia, it's actually the 27th. I lived there for about 20 years. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the grandchild. That's kind of all we're waiting around for. Yeah, just like, hello, well, you know. Anyway, okay, so let's get going with your parenting questions. I'm sure you've got some after Christmas. I hope you saw my video on about how to set up. There was 5 different points I had in how to prepare for Christmas. And you can still do some of that, like not so much the Christmas day, but the toy rotation system. You can still get that in place. That's just a fantastic system. So it's like 90% of your kids' toys are put away and they only have a few toys out at any given time. Teaches them how to focus and not get overstimulated and overwhelmed by all the clutter and stuff around them. So Christmas is a really good time to do that. Anyway, so hopefully you've got that going. Anyway, so parenting questions. And remember, I don't just deal with toddlers. I actually specialize in teenagers. So it's just that most people who turn up for answers seem to be parenting toddlers. So that's why most of them, and a lot of people say, oh, do you know anything about teenagers? Yeah, that's my specialty. That's my favorite age. But most people on here have toddlers. Okay, so questions. I'm just waiting while I take a sip of my Diet Pepsi. Okay, any questions? If you're new here, I'm a parenting coach, and I just do Q&As. I'm on here pretty much every day. Facebook is my least busy one. In Instagram and TikTok get really crazy. So anyway, I should get to all the questions. It's from Wendell North. My 2-year-old grandson screams a lot when he's upset, and we are baffled. Well, he's 2. Like, I'm just going to read out my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Then I'll have a suggestion for you. Number 1 is child-proof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2 is set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. Number 3 is when you want to connect with a toddler, you do so in their world. You don't go to the nail salon. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. And number 4 is stop with the mini therapy sessions, trying to reason things out with them and discuss all their big emotions and big feelings. I know it's trendy, but it's garbage. That was invented to feed the mom's needs. It has nothing to do with the toddler. And number 5 is stop trying to figure them out. They're not figure-outable. Sometimes they are just going to scream a lot, but I would ignore that stuff. You kind of ignore, or you just look like you're just doing your regular stuff. You might go and maybe play blocks in a corner and see if they join you, but I wouldn't answer any of that screaming. I just wouldn't. Where you put your attention is what grows. What you focus on grows. A lot of parents just focus so much on all the discipline, whereas I don't do that at all. I deal with bad behavior, but I focus on the good kid. So, and they can learn this really little, but they're out of control when they're 2. They can't control their minds or their bodies or anything yet. You know, they're just learning, right? Okay, so any more questions? Very slow. If it's that slow here on Facebook, I'll just move right over to Instagram. I know it's Boxing Day, but Instagram's usually pretty hectic. So If we don't get any more questions, I'll just move over. Okay, so it's from Connie. I would not even attempt to say your last name. My 2.5-year-old son is learning words that are not so great from listening to others. How do you get them to stop saying the bad words? Again, you've got to ignore them. You might say something like this, say no, but if that's the only attention that they're getting for a few minutes, they might just keep saying the bad words just to get you to look at them and say no. So you got to sort of judge this. Every time they say something bad, you might want to maybe sort of remove them from the fun for saying no, and you might want to remove them from something fun or take something fun away from them. But it's kind of a tough one. You just have to learn that you just can't give that stuff any attention. And if you do, even when you say no, you're not talking to them. You just go no really quietly and then look away. So, and then when they do talk, you've got to give them attention when they do the right thing too. Too many parents focus on the discipline, but you've also got to sort of encourage the good stuff too. So when he does talk nicely and doesn't say bad words, engage with him. As soon as he says a bad word, say no, and then you get up and walk away. You might learn. Won't learn the first time, maybe the 50th time. They don't learn right away. Okay, good. I'm getting more questions now. Great. Okay. Danica Day. Oh, that's a nice name. We have an almost 4-year-old that says naughty words when she is upset, calling people names. We tried ignoring. Oh, she's 4. Get the behavior board. That's up in the link above. It's completely free. If you go in the link above, you've got my behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, and my coaching. I do one-on-one coaching on Zoom. Anyway, put on the behavior board, which is free. Just download that. Put down no bad words. And then every time she says a bad word, there's a consequence. Okay, if she says bad words all day long, you go to the second consequence. You'll see there's 2 consequences. Go right to the second one. Say, you said a lot of bad words today, so we're going to go right to the big kahuna here. Oh, you already talked about that. Okay, I didn't read the whole thing. We tried ignoring. Okay, yeah, you don't just ignore it. Not at 4. You don't ignore that. Put this on the behavior, but can't think of a consequence to match the crime. Oh, well then just, okay. Well, I don't know how your household's set up. There's always 2 consequences. There's a positive action, so they have to help you unload the dishwasher or something. It doesn't have to fit the crime. The punishment does not have to fit the crime. Sometimes it does, but more often than not, it doesn't. It's just you do something bad, then you have to do a good deed. Don't get caught up on what that is. It's more about the message. Okay, you did something bad. Now you have to do something good. That's all. Just don't worry about it. And then if they say bad words all day long, or if they will not empty the dishwasher, do that first positive action consequence. Oh, that was a lot. Then you resort to the negative deprivation one, which is, okay, so media blackout for 24 hours and make it happen. Once you've said it, it has to happen. Okay, this is from Leanne Stroben on YouTube. My 8-year-old son likes to copy what a 6-year-old brother says. How do you handle that? Oh, you mean the mimicking? Yeah, I would put that on the behavior board. Say no aping or mimicking, whatever you want to call it. Because say it's teasing, and it's fun teasing if everyone's laughing. But if not everyone's in on it, then it's just mean. Okay, so put down no teasing, and then put down in brackets, I will decide what that is, or no copying or no aping. Put it down however you want, and there's a consequence. Now here's one of the examples. It's one of the few times that the punishment usually does fit the crime. So as soon as he teases or mocks his younger brother, then the younger brother gets to play with his favorite toy for a half hour or something like that. So yeah, check that out. Check out the behavior board. It sort of tells you how to set this up. Okay, perfect. Yes, I always say I like you when I say that. Thank you. Wait a minute. Okay, perfect. Yes, I always say I like when you say that. Thank you. I don't know what you mean. What do you mean by that? Because if I think you're doing what I think you're doing, I wouldn't recommend it. But I'm not sure what you're doing. So when you say when you say that, I don't know. Okay. I suspect you're doing a lot of praising. I don't do that because let me get it. I don't want to get into it. I'm going to be doing a video on this, on praise over pride. Too many parents praise, and they can't figure out why they're not getting good behavior. Kids don't behave well through being praised. They behave well through pride in themselves. There's a huge disconnect there, a huge difference. And yeah, I'm going to be doing a video on it, but geez, it's going to be a whopper. I'm going to have to watch myself. The only reason it's going to be so huge. The only reason that I haven't done it yet is I know it's going to be a huge video, or how on earth am I going to edit that one down? Yeah, look out for it. It'll turn up eventually somewhere. It's going to be, yeah, pride versus praise. Should I do it right here? Talk about it right here? Never mind. I'm actually going to do a video on that. Anyway, do you understand where I'm going with this at all? Like praise versus pride. Children are not well behaved because you praise them. They're well behaved when they have pride in themselves. Give them something to be proud of, and everything will take care of itself. Yeah, don't overpraise. There's nothing wrong with praise, but people tend to overdo it, and then they're so shocked. You're such a good little girl. Why are you talking like that? Because I know you're a really good girl. She's thinking, no, I'm not. I'm treating you horribly. Like, yeah, it's like it's used wrong. Praise is often just thrown out there no matter what's going on, and parents can't figure out why it's not working because they're not proud of themselves. That's why it's not working. Anyway, let's move on. I get myself in these spins. Okay, can you give some examples of the behavior board for 11-year-olds? How many should you put there maximum? There's only one rule per behavior board. And then week 2, now you've got another behavior board. Week 3, you'll have 3 behavior boards and never go past that. You don't have 111 behavior boards after under 111 weeks. It's just 3 behavior boards. So the first rule, and then the whole idea is, like, let's say you have 10 behaviors that you want to correct. And then parents will often say, you mean only 3 behavior boards? And I go, right. The reason is that with that first behavior board, it's just an adjustment period. It can be the honeymoon week or the hell week. I never know which. So it can go really good or it can go really bad. But it doesn't usually just go okay. It's usually worse or better. Anyway, the second week, it depends on the family and what's going on. Things can be getting a little bit better. The kids start to look at you a little bit differently if you're good at following through with the behavior board. By week 3, you usually are starting to get some respect. And if you're only dealing with 3 different behaviors that you don't like with your kids, the other stuff starts to drop away. Okay? That's the idea. You're investing in your leadership skills. Once you're a leader, you don't have to address the bad behavior. They just don't do it anymore. Children want to please a leader. And they look up to you. You're fun too. Mixing it with fun is a huge part of this. Children want to please a leader. If you're a leader, they want to please you. That's why they're not rude to you. They're polite with you. They're well behaved with you. And you don't want obedient little soldiers. You want children who are proud of themselves. That's what leaders do for their children. They raise children with high self-esteem, pride, and respect, mutual respect. Okay, let's move on. Okay. Whoops, sorry. So I'm saying something nice or does something like comfort his younger brother. I always say, wow, that was really nice. Okay. Really nice. So I watched another video and say no timeouts, but how do you handle when they kick hit? Okay. I know it's a bigger picture when I say this. I wouldn't praise for that. If he's being nice to his younger brother, I would not go on about that. You know why? It's very subtle, but it's psychological. It's kind of like the reward charts. A reward chart, which I can't stand, a reward chart sends the message to a child when it's about their behavior, sends the message, you're normally rotten, but if you should happen to be good, you'll get a reward. See the message? And when you say, that was really nice how you comforted your brother, it's almost like saying, like, that's not his normal. I treat nice behavior as their baseline, their normal. Doesn't mean I never praise them, but I wouldn't in that situation. I just wouldn't. It's sending the message that it's not natural for him. It's subtle, but it just does. And it's one of those, if people could twist my message here quite easily. Just trust me on that. It's just in that particular situation, I wouldn't praise. Okay, so I watched another video and you say no timeouts, but how do you handle when they kick hit? Put that on the behavior board. If they are violent towards other people, you always put that on the behavior board. The behavior board starts at the age of 3. So if they hit or kick or spit or do anything like that, you put it down. You can put down something like this. Don't hurt other people. Keep it that simple, but it's physical. Never deal with attitude. You can't say, don't upset people. That's ridiculous. It's never attitude. It's always actions. So you put down, don't hurt other people, which would include hitting, kicking, spitting. You can't just put no kicking because then they'll resort to hitting or punching or spitting. So put down, don't hurt other people. That is the rule, no hurting other people. And then there's a consequence. Usually the other person gets to pick their favorite toy to play with or something like that for a half hour, something like that. Yeah, give that a go. But do you understand that praise thing? It doesn't help in those situations. It actually hinders. It I could go on and on about that. I get a lot of teachers, principals, and child psychologists as clients when I'm coaching, and the child psychologist always gets that. They never question me. They get that one. The don't overpraise. It's patronizing. Aren't you nice right now? You're normally rotten. Right now, aren't you nice? Aren't you special? When they know that they just did something bad. Like it's just kind of as patronizing. Kids pick up on it. They don't understand it. They can't explain it, but they pick up on that. It just doesn't feel right. Okay. At what age do you start giving consequences? Mine's 2. Yeah, you start consequences at 3 on the behavior board. That's when they can stop and think before they act. That's why that works. Under the age of 3, they're all about consistent, corrective actions right in the moment. If you can't do it right in the moment, don't even bother. It has to be right in the moment. They live for today. They live for now. They're today people. They're not tomorrow or yesterday people. Oh, okay. At what age do you start giving consequence? Mine is 2, and I always say, if you don't get off the table now, I will come and take you down. I always do what I say. Is that a consequence? No, it's not a consequence. It's kind of an empty threat. Okay, do you want me to answer that? Okay, so let's say I was looking after a kid and he climbed up on a table. I would never threaten and say, if you don't get down off that table, I'm going to come and get you up. I wouldn't say that. I would say, off the table now. There's no threat in there. Off the table now. It's a direct order because he's doing something dangerous, right? Off the table now. If he doesn't, I don't say another word. I walk over and take action. I don't threaten with action. I just do it. Yeah, off the table now. Probably at 2 years old, that's kind of a dangerous thing. If it's a dining table or something, I'd probably just walk right over, pull him off and say no. Yeah, that's kind of when I go in the danger zone, I just take action. But yeah, you're threatening. I don't threaten. I just take action. Like point out the good behavior. Why? Why do you need to do that? I'm going to tell you a cute story. My son was in grade 2 and his teacher called me on her lunch hour. She thought this was so cute. She said to my son, she goes, "Why are you so nice?" And he looked up at her and he just said, "Mommy makes us be nice." Like he had no choice whatsoever. I didn't go on about it. They were very proud of themselves. They knew they were treasured. And because they were nice, they had a fun. We were just fun. Like we just had a blast. I mean, it was just fun, laughter. You don't need to praise and you don't need to praise children. Their love language is not praise and compliments. Their love language is fun. And if they're well behaved, I am fun. That is their love language. That is what makes them feel good. If you're interacting with them in their world, on the floor, playing in their world, rolling down the hill at the park with them, that is their love language. Do you think they'd rather that or you say, "Aren't you a good little boy?" See the difference? Which do you think would make them happier and feel better about themselves and like you more? It's just win, win, win. This praise and this compliments, and that's not their love language. That's not what does it for them. They're like, "Yeah, okay, fine, whatever. Can we play now?" "No, I'm too busy." You see? Anyway, okay. I'd love someone to argue with me. Why is no one arguing with me? Like I would love that. If someone, because I know there's lots of different ways of looking at that, and I have a million answers for it. So I would love it if you challenge me on that. Cut back on the praise and up the fun. That's my feeling on that. But if you want to challenge me, and not in a mean way, just if you have different beliefs, let it fly because I get it. But I know I can come back with something. I've been doing this for decades now. So okay, yeah, I'm very. Kind of set in my ways with a lot of stuff, and that's one of them. Okay. Oh, I know what you're asking here. What if there are a few big issues like hitting, name calling 2 siblings, and very disrespectful talk to mom? You do not deal with disrespect. You have to earn it. You work for that. It happens organically. And very disrespectful talk to mom. Would you only handle one of those at a time? I always handle the mean stuff, the physical stuff. I would handle hitting first. If they're violent in any way and they're aggressive, I always do that first. Always. So you put no hitting, start with 1. The disrespect just means they don't respect you. Work on your leadership skills, and that happens organically. You don't get respect by not earning it. It doesn't work that way. You get respect by earning it. You got to work for that. Check out my boot camp course if they're 3 to 12 years old. That teaches you how to be a leader. Once you're a leader, they respect you. It's just the way it is. So yeah, I've actually had parents, clients say they actually put down their rule is to respect their parents. That's a really big ask, and you haven't earned it. Like, why would you expect to get something that you haven't even earned? You know, you got to be a leader, and you got to earn that. It's not handed to you on a silver platter. So yeah, I teach leadership. That's what I teach here. Is no one going to argue with me on that one? It's such a good one to argue. Not argue with me, but come up with why you think praise is good. Yeah. Anyway, okay. 5, 9, and 11. Those are nice ages, nice splits. That's actually really nice ages. My course is 3 to 12 years old, the boot camp course, because that is the height of your leadership. That's when they want to please you. They're old enough to understand all this, and they're not too old to sort of say, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. But yeah, the 3 to 12 years old is when you're at the height of your power with your children, your influence over them, bringing out the best in them. You're their leader. They want to please you. And you don't want that with teenagers. You want them to start being their own leaders. And with little ones, they're out to lunch anyway. So you can't do that with toddlers. They're starting to get it, but they're too little. No one's coming at me with that praise thing. I wouldn't blame you if you did. I can understand why you would. Yeah, I just love talking about it. Okay. Someone asked me about tweens. Teens are my favorite age, by the way. So if you have teenagers or tweens, ask away. How do you handle not listening with tweens? For example, get dressed for school, get out of the bed. I just talked about that. You're expecting them to listen to you when you haven't worked to get their respect. You got to work to get their respect, then they listen to you. I have no memory, literally, I have no memory of ever telling my kids to do their homework, get ready for school, go to bed. I have zero memory of that. Like, I just have no memory because I had respect. They just kind of knew what was expected of them and they just did it. And if they decided that they didn't like my rules, they had a voice. They would come and say, you know what, Mom, I think I'm too old for that bedtime now. Can we change it? I go, yeah, you're right. Okay, let's change it. Like, they had a voice. But yeah, they were part of the decision-making with all these rules too, because they were so respectful, and that's what you want. So yeah, you got to work on the respect, and then you don't have to, like, I would never repeat myself or anything either. And ADHD, that's where I learned all this. So that's, my kids were kind of on the easier side, but I worked with kids for decades, and they were all challenging kids. They all had ADHD, WXYZ, whatever. I used to call them alphabet kids. So that's where I learned all this stuff. How long do you give them before you give a consequence? No, work on your leadership first. You're jumping ahead here. Check out my boot camp course. If they're 3 to 12 years old, it teaches you how to be a leader, and it teaches you how to earn their respect. And then once they do, everything kind of falls into place. I was working with some parents who were helping me design that course, and they came through when it was just being made. And they came through with me, and they kept saying, they all sort of said the same thing. Oh, it's about us, not our kids. Yeah, it's all about you. I teach parenting. I don't teach teenagering, tweening, childing, toddlering. It's all about you, your leadership skills, because I got respect with all ages. I worked with teenagers and toddlers and all ages. I always managed to get respect. So it's all about you and your leadership skills. That's all I teach. I don't teach kids how to be kids. They're great at it. They already know how to do it. And when they're young, they'll follow your lead. I thought you said you want to point out the good, though. And I address that because the good is having fun with them, playing with them, go to the park. That is the good in them because they're fun to be with. You enjoy being with them. You love having fun with your children. That to them is their love language. That builds them up more than anything else. You sit on the floor and play Lego with your kid for 2 hours. You watch the difference between that and 10 minutes of praise. Aren't you special? Aren't you wonderful? Or 10 minutes of Lego and 10 minutes of praise. You look at the difference. What really builds them up? What makes them feel good about themselves? Is it that compliments and praise? No. It's you playing with them in their world. One of my things, that I do as a consequence for the parents is very, very common, is to play hide and seek with their little children. If they yell at their kids, their consequence, the parents, they have to play hide and seek with their little children. Now, do you think those little kids would rather hear how wonderful they are? Or do you think they'd rather be running around the house playing hide and seek with their parents? Think about it. That's their love language. Praise doesn't really do it for them. They would much rather you be playing with them. Like when I was working with kids, I worked with kids for years. And I don't remember ever really saying, aren't you wonderful? But I would say stuff like this. Boy, we had a blast, didn't we? Yeah, you're all right. And they were like this. You're okay. Yeah, I guess you could be a friend. Like I always sort of talk like that. And kids are like this. But I've been playing with them. That makes them feel special, wanted, loved, enjoyable, fun. Makes them feel great. That's their love language. So you do want to point out the good. You do it by having fun with them. Absolutely. Does that make sense? Does that resonate? Does it make you sort of look at it a little bit differently? Would they rather be praised for 10 minutes or play hide and seek for 10 minutes? Which would make them feel better about themselves and you and life in general? Which one? Think about it. Anyway, I'd love your feedback on that, Corinne. Okay, sorry, the see more button is really hard. Okay, for me to do. I got fat thumbs or something, I don't know. Just want to say your one bit of advice that has really stuck with me and I live by is meet them in their world. Absolutely, I talk about that all the time. Can't remember if I heard it in a live or a video. I talk about it all the time. Got a very happy 16-month-old that is pretty easy to parent so far, but your tips keep me one step ahead. I always say if you want to connect with your child at any age, teenagers or anything, you enter their world. Don't expect them to enter your adult world. That's ridiculous and it's very self-absorbed. You watch what they do and what they enjoy and find a way to enjoy that with them. Enter their world. And you do it when you're disciplining them too. You enter their world. You don't expect a 2-year-old to have a mini therapy sessions discussing big emotions. Geez, I hate that, whoever invented that for toddlers. It's so patronizing and stupid. Anyway, you don't do that with toddlers. You enter their world. They're about consistent corrective actions. If you're going to discipline them, it's right in the moment and it's just an action. Say no and then take a toy away or something like that. It's an action. That's respecting them because you're disciplining them in their world. These mini therapy sessions discussing all their big emotions, big feelings, self-regulating. It's just garbage. That was all invented for the mother. It has nothing to do with the child. Oh God, it's so trendy right now. It drives me nuts. I saw that coming in, that please your parents style 30 years ago. It started with participation awards. Is that the stupidest thing you ever heard of? You just turn up and you get an award. What kind of adults are you raising? Think about it. Self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues. I should just turn up into a room and get an award. What's that teaching them? It's just ridiculous. Oh. Anyway, yeah, I predicted what was going to happen. And it's a blanket statement because I always say please your parents style raises self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues. It's a blanket statement, but it's just to get my point across. You know I exaggerate everything, but I say it to get my point across. Is it okay to give a time limit to chores 9 to 11 years old if they want to stretch it out? And if they, absolutely, you time everything. You say something like this, do your chores within 30 minutes of being asked to do so, or finish all your chores before 10 a.m. Well, you always have to put a time on it. Could you imagine having a job and say, just turn up whenever you want? There's always a time on it. You work from 9 to 5 or whatever. You see, there's always a time on everything. If you don't quantify it or time it, you don't look like a leader. You look like, yeah, whenever, and then you end up nagging them. It's not, I said I'll do it later. It's like one of my rules for teenagers is one of my most fun rules. And the parents are always saying, well, why is this fun? But it's, you always start small with teenagers. Actually teenagers are just coaching. So, but one of my favorite things to put as a rule for teenagers, you always start small. It's never about their personality, ever, attitude, never, ever. So you put something like this, dirty clothes go in the hamper and nowhere else. And the parents say, why do you say and nowhere else? It's because you don't want them to go on the floor all day and say, yeah, they're going to get in the hamper eventually. So if you have to be very specific. If you don't say that nowhere else, they might end up on their bed, these dirty, stinking gym clothes or whatever, all day long. And then by 11:59 at night, then they throw them in the hamper. You see how it's just different. Anyway, here's the funny part. And I always warn parents this will probably happen, especially with boys. Teenage boys tend to do this. 15, 16-year-old boys are the most common age to do this. So the rule will be put dirty clothes in the hamper and nowhere else. And then I say to the parents, you actually want them to not to do this. And so what the reason I put nowhere else, so they will carry those dirty clothes around with them all day out of spite for the parents. They'll be in the car with these dirty, they haven't put them anywhere. They haven't broken the rule. They didn't go in the hamper, but they've gone nowhere else. They just took them off and they're holding them. They'll be eating dinner and they'll still have the dirty, and they'll be looking at their parents like this while they've got the dirty clothes, just trying to get a rise out of them. So the parents say, well, what should I do? And I say, do what I would do. I would go, well played. Well, like, I respect that. So even when you're disciplining teenagers, like, I think that's hilarious. I love stuff like that. So they haven't broken the rule, but you see how you got to work with it. You always got to be one step ahead. It's easier for me because I've been studying kids for like 52 years. So it's easier for me. I've seen it all. So, but that's a good one, isn't it? They'll eat dinner with filthy clothes in their hand that they've been holding all day. And they'll sit there like this eating dinner. And the parents say, but how can I not get mad? I said, get mad. Sure. Get mad if you want, but then let me know how that goes. But what if you went, well played, well done? Wouldn't that be fun? Fun is always what I lead with, by the way. Okay. Okay, good. Corinne. I'm still a little confused because it's not always like 10 minutes of praise. It's like, oh, you can't have a song and it sounded so nice. Like, I don't know how it would be. Wow, that was a nice song. Let's play because you did great. Is that what you mean? I don't quite know what you mean with that. I mean, thanks for responding because I asked for that. Let me just read it. It's like, oh, you can't have a song and it sounded so nice. Like, I don't know how I would. Well, I don't quite know what you mean by that. I'm trying to figure it out. Nice song, let's play because you did great. No, it's a nice. Let's play a song because you did great. So reward them for good behavior. I don't reward for good behavior at all. That's the reward chart. Is that what you're talking about? That's the reward chart. I hate that. You know, a reward chart sends the message, you're normally rotten, but if you should happen to be good, you'll get a reward. Let's play this song because you were good. You're normally rotten, but you were good, so let's play a song. It's a fear-based parenting method. It literally is a fear-based parenting method. Leaders don't do that. Yeah. And yet, whenever I work with kids, they always say they feel great about themselves. I can see their self-esteem go up because I'm having fun with them. I'm in their world. I'm engaged with them. I'm having fun with them. I'm not praising them. I'm not big on that. I might say, oh, yeah, that was great. Okay, let's move on, do that. Yeah, well done. Yeah, it was good. But I don't go on about it. And I don't reward it. Yeah, it's overused, and I know why it is, because it's trendy. I get it. This praising, I get it, but it actually isn't their love language. It's not what makes them feel good, and it's not what gets them the best. You don't get the best results out of your kids with that at all. So, okay, I was going to go on again, but never mind. I follow and say what you mean and mean what you say. I love that. Like, say it once. Yep. No countdowns. No. Or if you do that again and it's helped so much. Or if you do that again. Yeah, that's right. Because those are all fear-based parenting. I'm going to count down because I don't know what to do right now. If you do it again, I might take action, but that time was okay. You see, it's fear-based, and they pick up on this, and they're like, oh, I got you where I want you. I can do whatever I want once. Or during the countdown for 3 counts. I can do whatever I want. See, it's a mixed message. It makes you look like you're afraid of them. Whereas I would say, if a kid did something under my care, and I would say, I didn't like that. I'll tell you what we'll do. I'll just sit here quietly for a minute. But, you know, because we were going to be, let's say we were playing and they did something. I said, tell you what, I'm going to sit here for quiet. I'm just going to look down for 1 minute just because I didn't like what you did. Okay, that's it. And then as soon as it's done, I let it go. I instantly go back into playing just like before. But I always let them know. I don't take any crap from kids. I let them know. But yeah, I never look, you can't look disappointed though. If you look disappointed in them, it makes them angry and it makes them feel like crap. Just say, yeah, I didn't like that. Yeah, we'll just have a minute of silence here or something like that. And they're like, oh. But if you look disappointed, oh, I didn't like that. Oh, that wasn't very good. You know, I don't do that. It's just kind of makes them feel bad. You don't want to do that. Okay, I've been on here for 34 minutes. Usually I do 30 because I got another hour to go because I'm going to be moving over to Instagram and then TikTok. So Instagram is my biggest live. Usually it's the most active, but it's Boxing Day, so I never know who's going to turn up. So thanks so much for joining me. And if you want to follow, you can go over to Instagram, and I'm on YouTube the whole time. That's where all these lives are saved. So, but anyway, I'm moving over to Instagram now. Check out my link above if you want to see my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, or my big boot camp course, or you can hire me for Zoom coaching. So we'll talk again soon. Bye now. Sorry, YouTube, I just have to get moved over. Oh, sugar, I did that wrong. Oh, well. Oh, well. I'm used to doing everything wrong. And live. Okay, there we go. Oh, good question from Leanne. I'm going to wait until Instagram people follow, but I want to answer that one. That is a good question because I got a good answer for that too. Okay, thanks so much for joining me. I know it's Boxing Day. I took the Christmas and Christmas Eve off. I mean, I have to check my emails every day, but I didn't do lives or anything on those 2 days that I know of. I have someone else who does stuff for me, so maybe they did stuff. I don't know, but I didn't do any lives. I do all my own lives, obviously. Anyway, okay, so we've got 85 people here. Instagram's really weird. Everyone turns up same time. And all the other platforms, they come in slowly. Like, it's really weird. I don't know why Instagram does that. I don't know why. Anyway, okay, listen, I want to answer a question here. It's a really good one. Leanne on YouTube asked me this, and it's such a good question. How do you, because I always say you got to find the good in kid. You deal with bad behavior, but you focus on the good kid. How did you find good in an aggressive child that wasn't yours? I've worked with hundreds of kids, and I always managed to find, let's say you got an aggressive kid and he's going for you. Okay, a little kid, he's going for you. If it was a bigger kid, I wouldn't be subjected to that if I was working with kids. I wouldn't be expected to be hit by a 10-year-old. Anyway, but I did work with some pretty violent teenagers who never hit me or anything, but they were a bit scary. But anyway, so what I did was I was always trying to connect with them. Always, always, always. And if they did go to hit me, or not hit me necessarily, because like I said, I didn't deal with that. But if they were really being aggressive, I would just say to them, I say, look, let's just take a break for a second, and then I've got something planned. So I made it sound like I sort of had something, something fun happening when they were younger. So yeah, I'd always sort of look like, yeah, okay, I didn't like that because we can't hit. I'm working with you here. So I'll tell you what, I got something planned. We'll start this a little bit later because I was going to do it right now. But because you did that, we'll just maybe wait another minute now. So I always sort of was trying to engage with them in their world. When you're very good at entering a child's world, I think that was kind of something I was good at. I was really good at reading kids and figuring out what they enjoyed. So, and I was always trying to connect with them on a fun level, but I never let bad behavior go, not once, not ever. I addressed it all. See, I didn't like that. I was just going to do this with you, but now I think we'll just wait a minute, okay? Just wait a minute. And then even that, I was smiling and I'm just looking like that, maybe looking at my watch like that. So, because I didn't want to make them feel bad. If you make children feel bad about what they just did, they're going to keep doing it. What I do is I address it and say, yeah, I didn't like that, but we're just going to take a break here. What's the difference between that and giving them a therapy session about everything that they did wrong? I just would never do that. Well, you shouldn't have done that because when you do that, then we can't do this. And then you see, it just makes them feel bad. My goal is to never make them feel bad, but then make them stop and think before they do something bad again. But then when I engage with them again, I do not discuss what they did. There's no way I would drive that home. I would never keep talking about what they did wrong. How would that make them feel? Better or worse? Do you think you're going to get better behavior out of that kid? Whereas I always say, come on, let's go have fun now. Okay, that minute's up. Woo, that's all over. Now let's have fun. I was always doing that. Always, always trying to bond with the kid. Did I always find something good in them? I used to joke around with the teenagers. Geez, I can't see anything good about you right now. I need a telescope to find it. I had to be careful with that. I only said that to the ones who had a sense of humor. But yeah, I'm always looking for the good. Always focusing on the good kid. Always. Even if I needed a microscope to find it. Okay, my child doesn't get clothes on or shoes. I don't know the age. I need an age. I mean, are they 16, 6, 2? I don't know. What do you do when you catch a 10-year-old in a blatant lie and they continue to weave the lie? How do you correct it? Okay, here's what I do. I would put down no lying. If they are liars, just call it like it is. Don't call them a liar, but just say no lying on the behavior board. That's completely free. Look at the link above or the description above. And the behavior board, their rule is no lying. And then you put in brackets, I will decide when it's a lie. That way they can't argue that, but they will. So here's what you do. If they lie and you think, oh, that's a lie, don't say it. But say to them, okay, I'm going to get my notebook here just so I get this straight. So you're making it look more official. When you're using watches to time things or notebooks, it just makes you look more official. So this is what I would say. Okay, tell me exactly what happened there. And then write it all down, everything. So they're 10 years old, right? Maybe wait a half a day. And then say, I'll tell you what, can we go through this again? Do not let them see your notes. And then you write it all out again. And if they're lying, they're going to change the story. The older they get, the better they get at not changing the story. But if they change the story, don't tell them why you decide they're lying. Say, you know what? I'm going to call this a lie. So let's go to the behavior board. No lying. The consequence is this. If they argue it, you say this. Look, I put down, I will decide when you're lying. And also, you know what I would say to a 10-year-old? You've probably lied in the past and I've missed it, right? So it kind of evens out. And that's as much as I'd say to excuse myself, kind of letting them know that you're in charge, that you're going to take charge. So then have a consequence. But you're never angry. See how I'm doing it? It's like a business deal. It's like a business transaction. There's no emotions whatsoever when you're disciplining a child. None. The rest of the time you can be crazy. I'm a lunatic with kids. It's really embarrassing. I really am crazy with kids. But when they're naughty, I get real quiet and real serious and real boring right away. I'm like, didn't like that. I'll tell you what we're going to do. So there's no emotions. The rest of the time you can be crazy, laughing, goofy, but when you're disciplining, it's a business transaction. If you let emotions get involved in it, it's going to tank. It's just not going to work. Okay. Did that help? Okay, sorry, I'm going to have to scroll through because I always worry if I answer the older questions that people are gone. So, because people come and go in lives. Yesterday, my 5-year-old admitted to sneaking candy when no one, I know what you're going to ask. When no one was watching, we thanked and praised him for telling the truth. How do you discipline after an admission? Say this is what I would say. Wow, good for you for admitting that. A lot of people wouldn't do that. Good for you. But, you still got to be punished. But if you didn't admit it and you were caught, it would have been bigger. And then I would say to a 5-year-old, I would say, what do you think the punishment should be? Do you think maybe brushing my hair for 5 minutes or something like that? You're still interacting with them. Maybe you have to give me a shoulder massage for 5 minutes. So it's something interactive, so it's no big deal, right? But you're still letting them know. They still have to be punished. It's like if you admitted to speeding or killing someone, or I know they're different, but you know what I mean? You still got to be punished. But yeah, make it something like that. Say, good for you. Good on you. Yeah, good for you. I really respect that. That's great. But still got to be punished. But would have been worse if we'd caught you and you hadn't admitted it. So yeah. But you can still punish children and make it kind of fun. Like my kids, they were really easy actually, because I got respect when they were tiny. So I kind of sailed right through the teen years. There's the odd bump along the road, but not much. But yeah, even the punishment. Like I remember once my son kept me waiting or something. I don't remember what it was. Anyway, and so he had to give me a makeover. And he was 12 years old and he was putting makeup on his mom. And I love getting all that stuff done. And I was laying on the couch with my eyes closed while he's giving me a makeover. And he says, I feel like a serial killer. Like, oh, pretty girl. So we had a blast, but he never did it again. So, much to my dismay. I loved it. So yeah, even the punishment can be fun. It's just like there's got to be a consequence. You got to pay your dues if you do something wrong, right? And I was accountable too. If I messed up, my kids loved it. Oh, they'd look at each other like this because they knew I'd be making amends. They knew I'd be taking them to the water slide park or something. Mom, you messed up. Yeah, okay, what do you want? So you got to be accountable too, because your children are not listening to you, maybe a little bit, but they're watching you. So if you're accountable for your actions, they're much more likely to be accountable for theirs, because how could they argue it if you're accountable? The old-fashioned authority-style parenting, there's no way those parents are accountable. It was their way or the highway, what I say goes. And it wasn't a bad way to parent, because you were still sort of a leader. The new style pleaser parent's a total disaster. Children are completely lost because they don't have a leader. Children need, crave, and want leadership. If they don't get it, they're going to be very vulnerable out there in the world. They're going to be self-entitled snowflakes when they grow up. And in the meantime, they're going to be very vulnerable and very susceptible to peer pressure, bullying, the drug dealer on the corner, the internet, the Kardashians. They're going to go searching out leadership somewhere, and they're going to feel lost. Why is it so bad to hug your kid, soon to be 3 years old, after a tantrum, and how to fix the need to feel hugged after a tantrum? She wants to be validated. That's what it's happening. If you hug her after, it's like saying, it's like being, if your kid, I don't know, bullied someone, then you hugged him because he wanted a hug. He wanted to be validated that, it wasn't so bad after all. Like it was, you know what I mean? Like it's like you're just sort of, it's a reward. So they can hug you, say, I would go like this. If they want to hug you, say, yeah, okay, there you go. Okay. And then I'd go off and do the dishes. I wouldn't throw them away or anything, but I wouldn't go overboard. No, you're actually rewarding it. Yeah. Oh, I just had a horrible day. I want a hug. It's like, yeah, there you go. You're all better now. Okay, I'm gonna go do the dishes. Yeah, there's no way I would reward that. And here's the thing. This is what people argue with me all the time. Not so much anymore, but they often did before. Anyway, then they'll say, yeah, but you got to validate her feelings and she doesn't feel loved. If you've got a child who what I just did would damage them in any way, you got bigger things to worry about. If your children can't handle that, you're not meeting their needs at all. Like if that's going to damage them, you got bigger fish to fry. So think about that. They can handle that because they go, oh yeah, okay, I'm not going to be rewarded for that. They'll pick up on that. But if they really need a hug, they don't feel loved anyway. There's something missing there is what I'm saying. So yeah, that should not damage a healthy child with a healthy relationship with their parents. Oh, sorry, I have to flip ahead because sometimes people come and go, and if I get the older questions, they might have already gone. So I'm going back to the latest question. Instagram doesn't scroll for me. TikTok scrolls for me. So anything to make things easier for me, because I'm old, I find this all difficult. Tips to help stage fright. My daughter is 4. Most schools, yeah, stage fright. I can't help you with that. Like it's just something that they have to practice to get over. The only thing that you might be able to do is if they've got school shoes, she goes on stage and does. Oh no, you can't help her with that. She's just shy with that. It's not. It's a personality too. Like you put a microphone or a camera in front of me, I'll be all over it. And other people aren't at all. Like, and I was always kind of like this. So I think it's a personality trait. There's nothing wrong with that. We all need people in front of the camera and we need people in the audience, right? You know what I mean? Like it's a personality trait. Yeah. The only thing you might be able to do is if it's a song they're singing up on stage, you can have her practice at home a lot. The more they do it at home practicing in front of you, the easier it might be. But still, stage fright is stage fright. And yeah, a lot of people get it. I remember very first time I ever did TV, it was breakfast TV, and here in Vancouver. And I think they don't. I think the pandemic shut them down afterwards. But anyway, and that was a big show back in the day. This is probably like 17 years ago. Anyway, I did it, and I didn't realize it was live. I don't know why. I just didn't really catch on. And I was sitting down, or someone told me it was live, and I was convinced I was going to wet myself or worse. And so I said, just make sure you film from the waist up. So I was really terrified. So it's normal to be afraid in front of an audience, but yeah. So yeah, it's quite normal. It's a healthy thing to feel. Actually, that was my best interview I ever did, because when I'm nervous, I get funny. And I was really funny, and I was boring. I did like hundreds of them after that, and I was really boring. That was the best interview I ever did because I was nervous. Uh, how to be a leader for a 1-year-old? You don't. They don't get it yet. They don't understand leadership yet. They're just little. They're just tiny. Yeah, there's really not much I can say because they're still babies. So yeah, they're not even toddlers yet. They're not really, in my mind, they're toddlers by the time they hit 16 months. That's when I see quite a shift, and they sort of can start to learn a little bit more. But yeah, just not much I can tell you. Yeah, you'd have, if you ask me a very specific question, I could answer. But yeah, they don't understand leadership yet. When a 1.5-year-old says no every time you try and explain anything, why are you explaining stuff? I don't understand that. What do you explain? I need, be more specific. How will they learn? Okay. How will they learn? Oh, I got a million things I could say to that. I'll give you a good example of this. I was the leader. My husband at the time was the pleaser. That's usually the way it is. My mom was the leader. My dad was the pleaser. And it's good. Kind of nice to have that, contrast. There's nothing wrong with it. Because by the time the kids are about 3.5, they're under the leader's rule. Like they kind of want to please the leader. So it's just the way it is. They only need one leader, by the way. So here's kind of a good example of this. I remember when our kids were starting to squirm on the change table, they didn't do it much for me. And they were little, like probably 1.5, but they did it a lot with their dad. And I would stand in the doorway just watching the show. It was fun. Because they knew when mom said, I'm going to change your nappy. Sorry, I raised them in Australia. Diaper, nappy over there. I'm going to change your diaper. And I did it. Like I put my arm across their chest and I just went like that and got it done like that. Whereas their dad would give in a bit more. He'd say, I'm going to change your diaper now. And then he'd maybe, okay, if you get down and get a toy, then I'll change your, he was always trying to, barter with them. They just pick up on a different energy. When mom said something was going to happen, I followed through. I didn't wait till they were in agreement. That's the difference. So yeah, stuff that had to be done. Like, I'm going to brush your teeth now. Whereas their dad might have bartered with them. I wouldn't have. I would have been brushing their teeth. They would have been going like that. It would have been a bad toothbrush, but eventually they would have been better for me. So that's a really good example. When something has to be done, follow through and just do it. They got to get in the car seat. Their dad might have let them sit in the seat beside it for a little while playing. And then, now are you going to get in the car seat? Whereas mom would said, you're getting in the car seat. Wait until they took a breath and folded them in and zip, and they were in. So you see the difference? Yeah, so I used to love watching him struggle. I'm sure my mom did with my dad too. Okay. You have a 16-month-old starting to hit. Okay, 16 months is toddler. You can check out my toddlers who hit, bite, etc. We were just trying to come up with a better name for that, like aggressive toddlers, but I don't really want to call toddlers aggressive. It's just sometimes they just start, it is an aggressive trait, but I don't know. I just don't want to call toddlers aggressive. So maybe if you can come up with a better name for that course. The other names I like. That's the only course I have that the name is just awful. Toddlers who hit, bite, etc. Like, whoo, catchy. Anyway, check that out. It's in the link above. It's in the link above or wherever in my description. There's a link. And you can get my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course for 3 to 12 years old. It's all focused on you and your leadership, by the way. It's not about them, but you and your leadership. And then the coaching. I do one-on-one coaching with Zoom. So it's usually an hour a week. But anyway, it's all in the link. I hope everyone had a good Christmas. Mine was kind of stressed out, I must say. Just waiting for this granddaughter to be born. She's overdue now, and it's my first grandchild. So yeah, we're just waiting for this little baby to arrive. It's like, come on. Okay, we're all waiting. I can't complain, though. The mom is the one who's really suffering. I remember that. You're just so huge at the end. But anyway, so yeah, my Christmas was just, I feel like kind of just waiting. In a good way, though. Okay, my son is 4 and he hits kids a lot. Sometimes just like that. Sometimes they don't play. He wants it. Okay, so he's hitting. Just use the behavior board. That's completely free. It's in the link above. And just put down no hitting. And if he's hitting at school, make sure that the teacher or daycare, wherever, no, it wouldn't be daycare, preschool or whatever, make sure they tell you and say, I'll be finding out if you hit at school too. So, and then just have a consequence. That is the example that I use on the behavior board. So. An alligator when putting on clothes, rolling and running away, thinking it's funny. Yeah, that's why I just overpowered them. It's only a short-term battle, though. Like the more you drag it out and let them win, the longer it's going to go on for. My kids learned really quickly. When mom said you're getting changed, it happened. It just did. They might have had a shoe on a hand and their pants on their arm. I mean, I don't know, but they were dressed. Like, whereas their dad would have bartered with them, even when they were little. But yeah, mom didn't. I didn't do that. So they were really good with me, really young. They learned. But except when they have a tantrum. When they have a tantrum, I would still get, my son had tantrums, and I would still get him dressed, but they're not learning anything during a tantrum at all. Like, it's just, ugh, they're just nuts. Tantrums are crazy. They're in the crazy zone. Thoughts on spending 1 to 3 months out of daycare routine in a small town with no children for 3. Lots of family, no kids for 1 to 3 months. Oh, I can't comment on that. If that's just what you have to do, you have to do. And I think children are very resilient. We worry more about that than, Oh, a really good example of this is what happened with the pandemic. I mean, kids weren't in school for a year or 2 or so. I mean, it was just horrendous. They survived. The parents, not so much. But kids are resilient. They bounce back pretty quick. So yeah, I wouldn't worry too much. Don't borrow trouble. Might not be a problem. If I want my son to learn to start talking, is it bad to use baby talk with him because he uses his own type of talk? Well, I don't know how old he is. Is he 16 or, or is he 16 months or, don't worry about that. Like a lot of new parents especially want their toddlers to walk and talk really early. Usually by the time we have our second kid, we don't want them to walk or talk till they're 6. I mean, so you're in this big rush, just let it happen organically. I don't worry about baby talk. I did it when they were babies for sure. Hi, sweetie. I still talk like that actually. But yeah, don't worry about it. Don't overthink that one. It doesn't really matter that much. When they're just really tiny, it doesn't matter. Okay, sorry, I have to flip ahead again because I got to answer the most recent questions in case those people have left. Okay. 7-year-old growls when doesn't like something or has to do. Yeah, that's not the first time I've heard this. Is it okay to put on the behavior board or ignore? You don't put growling. You never put anything attitude based on the behavior board ever, ever. Ignore it. As long as if he does what he's told to do or needs to do, like go to bed, do homework, whatever, that's fine. Let him growl. If past the age of about 3 3/4 to 4, they only do what works. Might be 3.5 to 4. They only do what works. It obviously annoys you, or else you wouldn't ask me about it. But yeah, I wouldn't. I wouldn't give that any. Whatever, they can growl all they want. So yeah, if it's not working, getting them no attention. If it's not annoying you, they'll just stop doing it. 4-year-old freaked out at the store when I pulled him out of the cart at the store and kicked and screamed the whole time to the truck. How would you handle that? Just ignore it and get him in the truck. You can't, when they've lost it, there's nothing you can do anyway. You just keep following through with what you were going to do. Or if it's a full out tantrum, I would just wait for him to finish. I'd just let him have it out in the store, if possible, or pull him out to the parking lot where he could freak out there. I do have a tantrum course, but I should talk about tantrums here. Why am I looking at my notes as if I need it for tantrums? Anyway, here's how you handle a tantrum. So a kid's having a full out tantrum, and you know what that is, a tantrum, a fit, a scene, whatever. That's when they lose their marbles and they're screaming and having a fit. I just let them where they are. I just leave them alone, and I pull out a nail file. You don't talk on the phone. You don't look at your phone, and you don't get into a conversation with someone. I consider that rude. You want to be there for them, but you're ignoring them. But you're there, okay? You're like, I pull out a nail file, and I just like this, and I'm not looking at them or talking to them. Let them have their fit. As soon as they're done, oh, y'all done? Okay, let's get going. It's effective ignoring, and it just works, especially at 4. Shouldn't still be having tantrums at 4, but they might have the odd one. But yeah, if it bothers you, they're going to keep doing it. Sometimes they just lose their marbles, though, But yeah, but it's effective ignoring. And as soon as they're done, though, just you don't talk about tantrums before, during, or after. There's no point. If you can come up with a point, let me know. 52 years I've been doing this. No one's ever come up with a good point. That why you should give a tantrum any attention. I've heard you say help kids in crisis. What type of crisis? I can't talk about it on here because I'll get flagged. Self-harming. Can I say the words? If they've been hurt by someone else in every way possible, at any age, I deal with that. Severe bullying. Lots of just stuff where they are in dire straits, and keeps me up at night if I've got clients in crisis, especially with teenagers. So yeah, all that horrible stuff. Yeah, that's how I started my business, was teen crisis work. So anyway, and not a lot of people do that. You know what's interesting? I've been hired by a huge portion of my clients are teachers, principals, and child psychologists, which makes perfect sense to me because they're learners. They want to do it right. They want to get it right. And they identify I couldn't do their jobs, and they struggle with parenting. Parenting is that's my niche. That's what I teach. I couldn't do their jobs. They struggle with parenting. So anyway, but I've never been hired by a youth worker. A youth worker works with troubled teenagers. I always say that's the PhD in all this. I've worked with a lot of troubled teens. If you can get mutual respect with troubled teenagers and get good outcomes with them, you don't need my help. Like that's that different level. But yeah, not a lot of people do that, but when you get it, it's just the best. It's the most rewarding work I do. Is But there's no guarantees with any of this. It's very tricky. What do you use as a consequence? I remove the situation, but it doesn't always work. Well, okay, well, check out my behavior board. That explains how you set rules and consequences. It's very organized, very simple. And it shows you how to start doing this. Like if kids are doing 20 things wrong in a day, I deal with 20 things wrong they're doing in a day because I'm level 10 with what I teach, because I know how to lead. But if you're learning how to lead, you only pick one behavior or one rule per week and you focus on that. And you're learning how to lead. If you were to try and pick all 20, it wouldn't work. You'd crash and burn. Whereas I know how to bundle stuff up and how to, work with it all, how to organize it all. But start with one rule per week. As a single mom from the beginning, I have a very hard time telling my boys no. They are 7 and 5. I see I have to be harder on them. Do you have any tips? Check out my boot camp course. Is the best thing for you potentially. It just teaches you how to be a leader. And then you said I have a very hard time telling my boys no. Boy, oh boy, they got to learn how to hear the word no, or else they're going to be out there committing crimes, or you know what I mean. Like they got to learn that they can't do everything they want. That's a life skill. If you don't teach that to them, they're going to be a handful. So yeah, check out my boot camp course. That's 3 to 12 years old. So you're at a really good age for that. Or at the very least, check out the behavior board. That's completely free. And for parents who are really struggling, I always say the behavior board the boot camp course is good. It teaches you how to be a leader. And it's good for all the normal stuff. But if you're really struggling with something, that would probably be coaching. So yeah. A lot of people double up. They get the course, the boot camp course, and then they hire me because they want to work with me through it. And so anyway, whatever you want, it's up to you. My 2-year-old screams and cries bloody murder every time we have people over at our house, or if we visit people their house. He even does it for my mom, and she comes over 3 times. Well, I don't know what's going on there. I don't know. My gut reaction was instant. My gut reaction is, do you play with your 2-year-old a lot in his world? I won't explain why, but my gut reaction was, how much do you play with him? Like really play, like silly stuff. Running around the house with him, just doing silly stuff in his world. I'm just curious. Do you want me to tell you why I'm asking that? If you do, maybe, I don't know how you do it on here. Oh, actually, shoot, I have to go. I'm going to be moving over to TikTok now because I can only do an hour and a half because my voice starts to go. So I'm moving over now to TikTok, and I'm in YouTube the whole time. All of my lives are saved on YouTube, and some on Facebook for a while too. So anyway, I'm moving over to TikTok, but check out the link above if you want to see my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course for 3 to 12 years old, or if you want to hire me for Zoom coaching. Anyway, we'll see you later. I'm going to TikTok now. Sorry, YouTube, just takes a second. Got to make sure I'm on the right TikTok. Oops, why is that? Oh, there we go. Okay. Okie dokie. Okay. And TikToks, it feeds in slowly, like Facebook and Instagram. Everyone turns up the exact same time. It's just bizarre. I get like 100 people at the exact same time. TikTok's nothing like that. Anyway, happy Boxing Day. Was very busy over on Instagram. You might have come over here from Instagram. I just didn't know who was going to turn up today. I don't think I did a live in the last couple days, just with Christmas. I hope everyone had a great Christmas. I had 5 tips on how to make your Christmas easier with toddlers. And one thing that you can still do, you've still got time to do, is that toy rotation system. I strongly recommend that. Yeah, it keeps your house cleaner, less clutter. Your kids are less likely to be bored, and they're less likely to be overstimulated. And there's so much coming at them at Christmas, right? Yeah, Merry Christmas. Mine was weird, just waiting for my first grandchild. She's overdue now. So we thought we're always sort of got our keys in our hand waiting to run because you never know, right? So yeah, we're just waiting for this grandchild. Okay. I love that idea. I'm totally going to do that. What about books? Yeah, you don't put away anything big like a PlayStation or anything like that. And you don't put away anything comforting, like if they sleep with a teddy bear at night, you don't put that away. And you don't put books away. Unless they've got millions of them that they pull out all the time, then I might put some away. But basically, that's not stuff that they tend to pull out a lot. It's all those incidental toys that they pull out and then toss and pull out and toss. And the funny thing is that if you were even, yeah, you can do a book rotation. Even if you were going to, even if they like those toys, they often don't play with them for very long because there's so many other things to look at. Do you know how I know this? I'm really bad at focus, and they say that's something that none of us are good at anymore. You should see me on YouTube. I can barely sit through a whole video, and I'll often double time it. Like I'll speed it up. Like, why do I need to do that? If I'm just goofing around watching my own stuff, why do I do that? It's because I got no focus left. And I'm still doing a puzzle, and I might be answering some emails at the same time. It's crazy. Okay. Oh, you came over from Instagram. You asked about ABA therapy. I have to look that up every single time someone asks. I don't know, because I'm not a therapist, so I don't know. Oh, autism. Yeah, I don't deal with autism on here. I only deal with it in coaching. I'm not a specialist in that. You have to have other things going on, autism specialist, but I know parenting autistic children is sort of one of the things I do. But yeah, so anyway, but that's coaching because every autistic child, they're more special needs and because they're all different and different. They're, the spectrum is pretty big and they're all very different. So yeah, that's coaching. Okay. Can you teach a 2-year-old boy to play independently even after playing in his world? He won't. Yeah, you got to get them started. I talk about this. It comes up a lot. You get them started, and then you go, oh, I got to go do the dishes. And I'll be right back. And then just see if they, But I'll tell you a cute story. I've told it before lots of times. The difference in my 2 children. My son was the firstborn, and I sewed all their clothes. I'd love to show you the stuff I sewed for my granddaughter, but they haven't seen it yet because she's not born yet, so I can't show you. And then I never can because after she's born, I won't have it. But anyway, so I made something really cute for her. I sewed all my kids' clothes. So I had a sewing room and I put up that little gate and I was right there, like 2 feet away. I'm sewing and the gate's right there. And my son would play right outside the gate and he'd be talking to me the whole time, happy as anything. He'd be handing me stuff. Oh, thank you, sweetie. We'd be playing and chatting while I'm sewing. I didn't do it all day, but if I'm making something for him, that's the way it went. Here's my daughter. She was the easiest little kid in the world, never had a tantrum, just so easy. But she was like Velcro with me. She wanted to be with me all the time. And a lot of them are just like this. They're only little once, okay? So anyway, same deal. I'm sewing right here. I even moved my desk over a bit so I'd be even closer to her. And I'm like right here. And the gate's there. She wouldn't play. She never cried or tantrum. She just was a super easy child. But this was her hanging onto the gate like it's a jail cell. And this was her. Just the saddest little girl. So you know what I did? I took the gate down and then she was such an easy child. She'd be really little though. And she'd just sit on my feet and she'd happily play there. It was like 6 inches away from where she was, but there was no gate between us. So they're only little ones. Oh, we got a kid on here. Okay. Yeah. So just think about it this way. There'll come a time when they're not all over you. So, it was so great when they were all over me. Okay. Sorry, I had to go through. There's a kid on here talking about stuff, and that happens. They want attention, right? How do we set up one-on-one coaching sessions with you? Just go in the link above, and you'll see all my coaching up there. I got rid of the one session thing. I've been talking about doing that for a couple of years. It's just not worth my time. It takes a lot of time to set a new client up and organize things. And also, what was most frustrating? That's not even why I got rid of it because I want to follow up. I hate giving people advice, and then I never see them again. It's like, I always want to say, how's it going? Because sometimes everyone's different. Sometimes people learn differently and so it wasn't satisfying for me as a parenting coach to have one sessions because I was always kind of frustrated. It's like, oh, okay, well, see ya. And sometimes they will hire me after that anyway. A lot of people, come back for more, but it's frustrating. So that's why I got rid of the one session. Anyway. Bup, 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 bup. Okay, 2-year-old hits his family when angry. Help. I do have a course on toddlers who hit, bite, etc. But basically, they're about consistent corrective actions. None of these mini therapy sessions that everyone wants to talk about big feelings and big emotions. I know it's trendy, but it's garbage. That's to feed the mom. It has nothing to do with the toddler. So every time they hit, you say no, and you just push them away to let them know. Like you take their, if they've hit, you say no, and then you just go off and do your own thing. Like you don't run away from them, but you just go on about as if you're just going on like that meant nothing to you kind of thing. You just corrected them and then you're just going about your business. Watch them like a hawk though. If they come at you again, prevent the next hit. Say no, and then just hold them for a few seconds or whatever, but you don't talk to them. Okay, it's these therapy sessions that are just making everything tank. It frustrates the heck out of me. It makes you look weak. And they're not listening, they're watching. So if they see this, and then you just look away while you're holding them, that's way more powerful than, you shouldn't do that. You're a good little boy. That's all garbage. That's why they keep hitting, because you're going to keep talking to them. You see? They know that they're going to get they're happy to be told off even during a therapy session rather than being ignored. You see what I mean? Like you're feeding it. You're winning. They're winning, I mean. They know it. I'm going to read out my top 5 parenting tips for toddlers. And then I'm going to read my top 3 parenting tips for teenagers. My top 3 tips for parenting toddlers is number 1, child-proof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2 is set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. Number 3 is you enter their world to connect with them. You don't go to the nail salon with a 3-year-old. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. Always enter their world. They look at you differently when you do that. Number 4, it's kind of similar. You enter their world when you discipline them. It's not about the therapy sessions. It's all about actions. It's use the behavior board if they're 3 and over. But under that, consistent corrective actions. Okay? And number 5 is stop trying to figure them out. Toddlers are not figure-outable. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They're just forming. They don't make any sense. They haven't formed sanity yet. I always say they're crazy, but they just haven't formed sanity yet. Some of them might even do this and smear poop on the wall. That's not completely abnormal. I mean, for them, that makes perfect sense, right? So yeah, that's my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. My top 3 tips for parenting teenagers is, I don't know why I have to look this up. I just like it in front of me when I'm reading it up, when I'm talking about it. Number 1, listen. This is for teenagers. Listen to understand and show empathy. You don't listen to gather information to lecture with. If you do that, they're going to tune you out. They're not going to tell you anything. And also, if they want your advice, they're going to ask for it. They already know it anyway. Number 2 is negotiate pretty much everything with teenagers. I know that's a blanket statement, but it's just sort of a general statement. So it goes something like this. Hey, I want your dirty clothes in the hamper from now on. What do you want from me in return? Negotiate. They just sort of respect you a bit more when you do that. And number 3 is don't sweat the small stuff with teenagers. Save your energy for the big stuff if you even need it. And if you do have big stuff, you are going to need your energy. You don't micromanage a teenager. You can try, but good luck with that. Okay, my 5-year-old is a sore loser. This comes up a lot. 5-year-old is a sore loser and throws a fit when we play games, takes the fun from the whole family. Okay, so poor sportsmanship is a learned behavior. It usually means that you have focused a lot on winning. So winning is good. Oh, you won. Yay, you won. When I grew up, my mom always used to tell me, and my brother, she always said, you're such good sports. And we are. We play to win, but we don't care if we win. There's a big difference there. We're actually a really good sports. So we play to win, but we don't care if we win. And my mom used to say, I'd rather lose and play well than win through luck. So winning was never the point. It was the journey, the effort, the fun. So what are you focused on? Do you make a big deal out of the winner? So also, you're probably not going to like this, but it's very common with clients when I'm coaching. Are you a right fighter? What I mean by that is, do you always have to be right? Do you always have to have the last word? And that trait tends to raise kids who are poor sports because they don't like any kind of failure. It's like failing. It's like losing is a failure, and it's not. My mom. I always told my kids, if you're not failing, you're not growing, because that means you're not trying hard enough. You got to try stuff. I have no problem failing. I try stuff all the time that I'm lousy at. And because I want to grow, I want to learn. I want to try new things. So I'm not afraid of failure. Failure is good. That means you're learning. So I'm just saying it's a learned behavior. There's something that you're doing that's taught them that. So those are a couple different options. My son is 11 and doesn't listen, talks back about everything. Yeah, you just haven't earned his respect. Work on your leadership skills. I actually have a boot camp course that teaches you how to be a leader, and it goes from 3 to 12 years old. So it just teaches you leadership, and they will listen. Yeah, they're going to talk back if you aren't a leader. If you're a leader, they just don't. But why would they? Because they want to please you. Because you make them feel good about themselves. And it's just different. So it's all about you. You haven't earned the respect. You got to work for it. Getting respect is hard. Maintaining it's a piece of cake. Getting it is hard, though. It's hard work. Everyone wants the rainbow, and I always say, "You ready to go through the storm?" Because you got to go through a storm to get to the rainbow. Usually gets worse before it gets better. Because they remember the old you, and they're like, "Oh, you're trying to change now, are you?" We'll see about that. So you got to stick to your guns. That's why you only pick one rule per week. Even in that big course, the boot camp course, it's not a 24/7 kind of thing. It's like you just got one rule you're focused on. And that might only come up once a day or twice a week. I don't know. So, and pick something easy. If you're doing that course, pick something that's not the hardest thing that you want to correct. So you just got to make that behavior board work. That's the sign that you're changing. You're going to be a leader. And you're on there too. The whole family's on there. If you're not on there, it's not going to work. You got to be accountable. You have a book. No, I do have plans on writing a book one day. Well, I won't write it, but I'll get someone else to write it. But yeah, one day I will, for sure. Yeah. It's just, God, what do I leave out? It'll have to be like 2,000 pages. I'm very bad at that. All my courses were like 4 times the length that they are now. And then people complained they were too big. And then some people still complain they're not big enough. But I cut it down to what you need to get results and no more. Because I find the simpler I keep it, the better. Because I'm like that. If I have a book this big to teach me something, I'll probably go to the pamphlet. You know what I mean? So yeah, we'll see. Anyway. What do you do if you're overwhelmed and always alone with 3 young children? Well, I can't fix that. But the better you are at leading, the easier your life will be with children. So work on your leadership skills, and they'll want to please you. From the age of 3 to 12, you're at the height of your leadership, and they'll want to please you. So think about how easy that is. My kids are really easy. So and it was mutual respect. They had a voice, believe me. They were not obedient. You don't want obedient soldiers here. You want kids with high self-esteem, and you want to be fun. You want to be friends with your kids. But if they ever did something I didn't like, I was mom. We were best friends for sure. But if they did something I didn't like, I was mom. You're always the parent first. But work on your leadership skills. Changes everything. Okay, I got some questions on YouTube. My 2.5-year-old, I don't even know if you're still here. That was an older question. My 2.5-year-old is suddenly terrified of the bath, taking a bath. How do I overcome this? 2.5-year-old suddenly afraid of the bath. Well, are they afraid of it, or they just don't like it? Because they often decide they don't like something, and they think, oh, wait a minute, if I kick and scream enough, it might not even happen. So maybe get them in the shower. Try that. Go in the shower. Or get them those crayons. There's all sorts of stuff oh my God, kids usually love that foam. I remember that when I was a kid back in the 60s, and they still make it, that foam where they can build boats out of it and everything. It's like a soap, but it's spray foam, looks like whipped cream. So yeah, try that and say you can only have this if you get in the tub. So bit of a lure. Yeah, sounds great. How do you better the leading skills? Because right now I feel like dying. You got to work on it. Just keep watching me, or you can get my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, or my boot camp course, 3 to 12 years old, or you can hire me one-on-one for coaching. I am not a therapist at all, but a lot of my clients say that's what I do. Like a lot of people hire me because they're struggling themselves. So that's why coaching is sort of more me. Like they often say, talk me off the cliff. So I don't think they're actually hanging off a cliff, but you know what I mean. Okay. I've fallen short in the leadership department and now have a 13-year-old. What should my approach be? Well, okay. I don't have a course on teenagers yet, but that's coaching if you want my one-on-one help with that. It's just about strengthening your bond, strengthening your friendship with your teenager. But it's a, it's a bit of a dance too, because you want to let them, spread their wings. So these are my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. You listen to understand and show empathy. You don't listen to gather information to lecture with. If they want your advice, they're going to ask for it. By the way, they already know it. Number 2 is you negotiate pretty much everything. You say something like this: hey, I want your dirty clothes in the hamper from now on. What do you want from me? Negotiate it. Not everything, but a lot of stuff. And then number 3 is don't sweat the small stuff. If you try and micromanage a teenager, good luck with that. Save your energy for the big stuff if you even have it. So yeah, do not try and micromanage. If they do something stupid, this is what I would have said. If they did something stupid, I'd say, well, that was stupid. Wait till you hear what I did when I was your age. Like, it's okay. We all mess up. Life's messy. So yeah, actually, teenagers are my favorite age. When you're good at dealing with teenagers, they're the best because they're so freaking smart. They're just and they have this huge brain power, but they're fresh and they're open to new ideas. Like, they're just amazing. And their brains, like, I'm 63 years old. My brain's turned into mush. I can just feel it. I'm not as quick as I used to be, for sure. And, but yeah, when they're young, they are quick, especially fast. And plus they don't tend to be as opinionated when they know that it's okay not to be. Like, you say, yeah, you can change your mind tomorrow. I want you to try everything, go out there, try stuff. But yeah, you can change your mind tomorrow. Like, it's okay to change your mind about stuff too. So allow them to make mistakes and learn from them, and then laugh it off with them and tell them the dumb things you did. So it's okay. That's how we learn. We make mistakes. That's how we learn. There's nothing wrong with making mistakes. I encourage it because that's how we learn, right? The road to success is paved with failure. If you're not failing, you're not learning because you're only playing it safe and only doing what you're good at. Well, what a sad life is that, eh? Don't you want to go out there and learn and fail and learn and open new horizons all the time? I'll always have this. I'm very curious. Like, I'm always open to new stuff, meeting new people. Like, I always want to grow. Like, to me, I'm dying if I'm not growing. So I always want to sort of, I have my things I'm set in my ways, but I'm always searching out different ideas and find that fascinating. 8-year-old back chatting, rude. I ignore. He is sorry, loves me. I hug him, but this is so repetitive. Yeah, you're just not a leader. Work on your leadership skills, and that does not happen. It just doesn't. The attitude happens organically. You can't address it. So the only reason he's back chatting is that you're not a leader. So work on your leadership skills. By the way, the boot camp course might be something. Check it out anyway. Or it's mostly fun. You want to be fun. You want to engage with them, connect with them, be friends with your kids. And you're like a mentor. They're very slow to be rude to a mentor. Like, they just don't tend to do it. When they look up to you because you make them feel great about themselves, they treat you like gold. So yeah. Someone asked on YouTube, 1-year-old screams about anything. Waking up, doesn't get his way. Oh, he's only 1. Well, is he how many months is he, or is he 12 months? And it's hard to help him. Tips to support him. We don't support that behavior. We just kind of let it go. We don't support it. Yeah. If they're screaming all the time, just say, yeah, that's all right. And you use diversion a lot with that age. So if they're screaming because they didn't get their own way and they're having a fit, I would get their favorite book and I would go sit on the floor or on the couch and I would read their favorite book out loud to myself. You use diversion, but it's indirect diversion. You're not looking at them or talking to them. You're all by it. This would be me. I've used this millions of times with toddlers. So they're having a fit over there. This is what I do. Oh, and the fox jumped over the, ooh, what happened next? Wow. Holy moly. Wow. Next thing you know, they're in your lap and you're reading together. So that's the idea. It doesn't work every single time, but I've worked with hundreds of little kids and that usually is a pretty good one. But I don't look at them or talk to them. Not until they calm down and sit in my lap. I ignore the crazy, reward the calm. But I'm kind of rewarding it, but indirectly. Or if I don't have a book, I might play blocks or something, but I'm not looking at them. I'm not inviting them over. I'm not talking to them until they come over. How's that sound? It was on Erica on YouTube. Um, my son always blurts and sticks out his tongue when I tell him off. Why are you telling him off? I might do that too if you tell me off. Why are you telling him off? What do you mean by that? He's for what? You're discussing what he's doing wrong? Yeah, I don't do that. If you're telling him off. Yeah, I'm on the fence. I don't know what you mean by that. So if you're telling anyone off, I'd probably stick my tongue out at you too if you did that to me. So I don't quite know what you mean by telling him off. You're discussing what he's doing wrong. I don't do that. I say, yeah, that was bad. Here's the consequence. Now let's move on. It's more like that. Yeah, I'll do it too and roll my eyes. Oh, so you're an escalator. You bring out the anger and then you escalate it by rolling your eyes. This happens a lot with teenagers. When I'm working with parents of teenagers, and they'll say, I did everything you said, and they still told me to F off. And I'll say, show me what you did. Just exactly show me what you said to them. Because I'll tell them word for word what to say sometimes. And so they'll write it out and then they'll say, okay, I said exactly what you said to say. And then they'll do it. And I say, pretend I'm your teenager. Sure enough, at the end of it, they'll go like this, la, 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 or something like that. They'll show their disgust. I say, you just erased all the good work you just did. So I know it's hard to do. You want to get even. You can't get even. There's none of that. If you want to get even with your kids, I can't help you. It's not like that. It doesn't work like that. So yeah, you can't show any anger, disgust, none of that. Disapproval. You can't show that. Just say, yeah, that was bad. And say it like it is. Yeah, that was bad. So here's your consequence. Okay, do you understand? It's like that. And the only reason you're doing it is when parents escalate, and they do it all the time. Happens all the time. By the way, most of my clients in coaching, they yell. A lot of them hit. They have a hard time admitting that, but they do. I say, just tell me what's going on. That's okay. So they'll spank their kids. They're just lost it. These are highly educated. A lot of them are teachers, principals, child psychologists, and they still get caught up in it because you're hurt. Your children are hurting your feelings. They're making you feel like a failure as a parent. So you lash out at them because you feel like they're doing it to you. They're not. They are directly, but indirectly, it's not like that. You're just not a leader. Work on your leadership skills, and none of that stuff needs to happen. So, but that's most of my clients, for sure. Most of them yell, for sure. And like I said, these are highly educated, successful people, and they have these little humans in their life that are just driving them nuts. So you're not alone. So yeah, they escalate. They like to escalate because it makes them feel like they're getting even, the parents do. But yeah, it's just going to lead down a very bad path. It's like if you're talking to a teenager and you're arguing with them, which I don't recommend. So you're arguing with a teenager and then you say, okay, we'll discuss. And then I always say, well, leave it alone. Just walk away. You know what the parents, and I say, do not say this. You know what they'll often say? We'll discuss it later when you've calmed down. How patronizing. Can you imagine talking to your spouse? We'll talk about it later when you calm down. Like it's just such a little just say, I'll tell you what, this is what you say. I'll tell you what, let's discuss it later, okay? I'm going to go and do the dishes or something. So that's how you do it. And then don't say, when you calm down. Hey, I saw you said not allow your kids to be bored, but it's an important part of life. I didn't say don't allow your kids to be bored. And with toddlers, I said if you do a toy rotation system, then they're never bored. But that's just a blanket statement. I think it's important to not feel you have to entertain your children at all times. It's okay if they sit there bored. I remember both my kids did this. I haven't told this story for quite a while. Anyway, my son was 5 years old and he'd just been at a friend's house and he must have heard this over there. I know he would have. So he came, and I guess there was a reward for saying this. So he was at this friend's house. He comes home afterwards and he said to me, I'm bored, in that snotty tone. I'd never even heard that tone before. And I went like this. I looked at him like that and he went, never mind. So I said to him, oh, my precious angel, are you bored? No, I'm not. No, I'm not. And I said, come with mommy. I don't want you to be bored. So I took him in the laundry room, filled up a mop bucket and gave him a mop. He was never bored again. The exact same thing happened with my daughter. 5 years later, she came and my son remembered that and he was laughing too. So yeah, it's okay that they're bored. Nothing wrong with that. It's not my job to entertain you every minute of every day. I knew they had very full, good lives, so I knew I was meeting their needs already. If you're not meeting their needs, then boredom can be a problem. But if you know you're meeting their needs, we were out all the time, and then we had down times where we're, out all, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I was meeting their needs. Okay, actually, I've got to get going. I've been on here for an hour and a half now because I'm always on YouTube. All my lives are filmed and saved on YouTube. And I always start with Facebook, then I go over to Instagram, and then I finish up on TikTok. So you get my raspy voice at the end. Anyway, happy Boxing Day. My granddaughter is overdue now, so it's my first grandchild. So yeah, so we're just kind of waiting around for that. I got everything all packed up, ready to go. But anyway, so yeah, that's what I've been doing over Christmas, just waiting for my first grandchild. So I hope you had a really nice Christmas, and we'll talk again probably tomorrow. Take care. Bye now.